In Israel, there's a remarkable organization called Yad Eliezer that provides assistance to families that are impoverished and all types of financial assistance to all kinds of different people from all kinds of different backgrounds. One of the beautiful projects of Yad Eliezer is a wedding hall. They actually have two wedding halls, one on top of the other, and they provide low-cost economy weddings for people who really can't afford to pay for a more substantial wedding. Everything in the entire wedding hall is subsidized, and the family pays, but they pay a nominal fee in comparison to what they would have to pay if they made a wedding anywhere else. It happened that there was a young lady that got engaged, and her family was really not of means, and neither was she or her fiance. So they booked the hall. They booked this hall in one of Yad Eliezer. And now the two halls, one of them is very large and very roomy and spacious, and the other one's much smaller. And they booked a larger hall. They had a decent-sized family, and they wanted everyone to feel very comfortable. A few weeks later, another young woman got engaged. She called up Yad Eliezer. She explained her situation, and she booked a hall as well. And they said, you know, we only have the small hall available. Oh, she said, that's too bad because I have a large family, and there'll be many guests. And all right, if I don't have a choice, I don't have a choice. But you know what she said? Can you give me the phone number of the couple, the young couple that's planning on making it in the large hall? Perhaps they wouldn't mind switching with me. So she calls up the bride, the future bride, and she says, listen, we have a very large family, and we'd very much appreciate if you guys can take the downstairs hall, the small hall, and we're going to take the large hall if that's okay. And the young lady said, you know what, we also have a pretty decent sized family. I don't think it's going to work. But you know, a few days passed, and the bride that was supposed to have the large hall began to think about it, and she said, you know, how wonderful it would be if we could provide, you know, an outlet for this other family for a wedding that they really have a difficulty being able to afford. You know, maybe we can squeeze our family into the small hall and give them the hall so they can make a wedding in the larger hall. And she spoke to her fiance and her family, and they supported her. She calls back the young bride, and she says, I have great news for you. I am going to give up the large hall, and you guys can have, and we'll take the small hall. Oh, she was so grateful and so thankful. She blessed her, she thanked her and said, you know what, I got you, just bless you. And when the wedding night came, the wedding upstairs, the wedding downstairs, both brides were happy, but the bride in the small hall was more radiant, and she was happier because she realized that on the night of her wedding she did an incredible chesed, an incredible act of selfless kindness. And is there a better way to start one's married life? At the end of the wedding, the manager of the two halls comes over to the couple that had just made their wedding in the bottom hall, and she says, the manager says, you're never going to believe what happened. A couple called us from the United States. They're making a wedding in the United States for their last child. They're a wealthy family, and they wanted to sponsor a wedding. And they said, are there any weddings tonight taking place in your home? They said, yes, two, a larger one and a smaller one. They said, you know what, would it be okay if we can't afford to necessarily pay for the large one, but would it be okay if we pay for the smaller one? And the manager turns to the young couple and says, I'm happy to tell you, you don't owe one dime for this entire wedding. Everything was paid. Flowers, music, food. Enjoy. Take the money that you're going to use for the wedding and use it to start your life. And from this story we see that when a person does kindness for another person, they never lose. It's not like you lose out. And maybe sometimes the results are not necessarily immediate. And maybe sometimes you don't see how helping somebody else or being selfless pays off in the long run. But this is a story where there was almost instant gratification. This young lady was willing to sacrifice a part of her happiness for the happiness of another person, and she was remunerated almost instantaneously. So let's look for opportunities to help other people, not because we're looking to be remunerated, just because we want to be enriched in the experience, because it's the right thing to do, chesed, to help other people out. Hey, you never know, it may ultimately pay in the end. Shabbat Shalom.